welcome to episode 112 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast, recorded on April 11th, 2021. My name is Ian. I live on Vancouver Island. I'm a student in preparedness, target shooter, and my farm's designated mediocre handyman. I'm pinch hitting for Eric tonight.
I'm Alan. I'm a safety trainer, first responder, security expert, and overall safety nerd.
And my name's Terry. I live in Southern Ontario. Besides being an aspiring author, which is why I'm on here tonight, I've worked in the aviation business for 20 years, partially in the Air Force, Canadian Air Force, and partially in civil aviation. Worked in transportation, and dare I say it, the godforsaken pipeline construction business. I know, it's a kind of a taboo word these days. And I do enjoy hunting, fishing, camping, and all things prepping.
That's what we appreciate about you, Terry. If you want to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, buy some swag. We have both Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirts and the super awesome, wicked cool tactical Velcro patch at prepperpodcast.ca. All proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueling.
And if you're enjoying the show tonight, please take a few minutes to like us on Facebook, submit a review on iTunes. Also, we want your feedback, good or bad, or just because there's a topic if there's a topic you want us to cover, you can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, we got some more literary content for you this episode. We're going to start off with some preparedness-related news. Then we're going to let you know what we did for preparedness since our last episode. Then we're going to get into the main topic, which is Book Club Part 2.
It's a really low-effort dad joke there tonight, Ian.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I miss Eric too much. I'm kind of thrown off.
Eric, we need you back.
Yeah, badly. Anyway, so news time. It's kind of funny because I guess we had to put it off because of Easter weekend, so my news might be a little dated here. But at first, I was complaining. I was like, BC, what are you doing? Like, our cases were dropping, and we didn't have any reason to do this, but we decided to do another circuit breaker reset pseudo lockdown, which at first I was kind of angry about, but then Ontario, not to be outdone, decided to do, what do they call it in your end now? It's
they call it an emergency break, I think.
Emergency break, not a circuit break, but an emergency break.
Coming up with new terms for the same thing.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I love these pithy expressions. But anyway, so yeah, obviously, as you guys know, Ontario has gone through a bit of a lockdown, and things have changed.
Sort of.
I mean, just
every long weekend, though, right?
It seems to be.
Yeah,
just a long weekend, and then the case count goes away, and then another long weekend comes along, and here we are again, and it's almost as if it's not about some kind of potentially deadly virus.
Exactly.
Oh, shit, was that my loud voice?
That was the outside voice inside, and vice versa, yeah. Yeah, no, it's kind of funny. I don't think there's a lot of compliance, which is a good thing at this point going on around here, because there's no reason to lock it down when the cases are lower than they ever have been. So anyway, second piece of news I had here was the Liberals endorse at their policy conference a policy to start up UBI if they get reelected. So that would be Intro to Communism 101. I don't know how to refer to that, but
universal basic income for those new to the party. It's a guaranteed monthly, weekly, bi-weekly deposit into a bank account.
Yeah, it's not universal, it turns out.
So it's only universal if you qualify and if you vote for the right party.
Yeah, I think it's $2,000 for people that make less than 30 or something, and by the time you make 60, it's phased out, and so there's a disincentive to work, and it's all the problems of socialism rolled into one are taxpayer expense.
Of course,
and I can make an argument at most points that a universal basic income, if and only if it replaces CPP and OAS and welfare and all the other support systems that we have, it's likely cheaper to administer.
Oh, I would think
we all know that it won't be done that way.
Yeah, I would think if they got rid of all those other things, like all the welfare and all the other bureaucracy involved, it would definitely be cheaper. But government never gets smaller, does it? It invariably gets more convoluted and more expensive to run. So yeah, I can't imagine there's going to be any cost savings here at all.
I can't imagine that it would happen that way. But if it did, I would support it. Yeah. If it worked that way. So my news, funny enough, as the Liberals are endorsing universal-ish basic income, The NDP has decided that if they get into power, that perhaps they will introduce a new wealth tax on millionaires and a $20 an hour minimum wage, which will create fewer millionaires, which will then reduce the wealth tax. But yeah, thanks NDP. Good job. Try again.
Not to mention scaring the one group of people that can actually afford to leave the country into leaving the country, and never mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We're on the wrong CPP for dwelling too much on that.
That's right. Wrong show. All right. So what have we done lately for preps? Move on to that, I guess. So as for myself, well, it was a 2-week episode or 2-week hiatus there. So yeah, there's a list. I ended up having to go for retraining.
Before you go in, I just gotta go get a coffee. So
yeah, take your
start
time.
Talking. By the time I get back, you'll still be talking. But
yeah, no, it's all good. All right, so I started off. Obviously, my first week was actually way off because I had recurrent training at work, and I had to go over to the off the island type of thing and go do that. So that kind of at first had me sidelined for most of the show, and I was like, oh, it's a good thing we skipped a week actually. So then I got home and immediately discovered. I think I mentioned to you guys on the chat that my roof turns out had some vents that, even though I had my roof redone just when I first moved in, they had reused some of the old parts from the old roof, and they had disintegrated, and now I had gaping holes in my roof. So I had to go take care of that. So again, that took away from my prep time. But I managed to get some more stuff in. Thanks to Eric, and I had originally a bit of a hardware problem with the programming cable, but I managed to get that Chirp program for ham radio up and running. And that was awesome because instead of trying to manually enter all the repeaters and everything else, I was able to like import a bunch of stuff into Chirp via like Repeater Book, I think the website is. And then all of a sudden, thanks to a couple of YouTube videos, I was programming the ham radios and even personalizing it to the point where even when I turn it on, I think it even says the Island Retreat on it now. And it's got all the stuff named on it. Oh, it's such a labor saver. So I was very happy to learn how to use Chirp.
I think we're gonna have to swap nerd spots here on our on our intros.
Yeah, no. At first, I was like, no, I think I'm gonna try and get this done. So actually, thanks to Eric, I got that done. So and then since I started that bent this week, I decided to join the local ham radio club, which is called MIRA, or Mid Island Radio Association, and they were a really friendly bunch. There's only I think 80 people in the group, so obviously it's going to be a very tight knit group, I guess, on that thing. So the good news is they have weekly Zoom meetings. So I'm sure to learn stuff by osmosis during the course of all these meetings, and hopefully pick up some knowledge along the way. I started a battery system, which I should have been smart enough to bring in front of the camera, but to basically do an off-grid power for the ham radio base station. Just took a look at my wallet. I was actually brushing up my resume for a side gig that I need to find because I'm finding myself out of work pretty much right now. So I actually looked at my CPR card, and I'm getting close to renewal time, so I'm going to have to go to do some sort of day renewal. Do you know if they do that? Is this like a half-day course or something, Alan, or how does that work for CPR?
Depends on who your certifying body is, and I can't say for sure in BC. I know in Ontario, CPR renewal is like 3 hours.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, now that's CPR only. CPR and first aid, as long as it hasn't expired. Now I teach through the Red Cross, so the Red Cross in Ontario is like I think it's 3 or 4 hours for CPR, 5 hours for basic, and 8 hours for standard first aid with CPR renewal involved.
All right, cool. Yeah, so it's my first aid too. I'll probably have to do so. I'll do 1 day renewal, I guess, on that sometime this next month here.
Yep, and most of them are offering a blended, so you can do the theory online before you show up, and then just do the skills in class. And the more of those that I teach, the less likely I want to go back to teaching 2-day classes. It's so much more efficient.
Well, yeah, I would think so. I mean, and yeah, especially nowadays, as people are kind of freaked out about interactions, it seems. So yeah, I guess if you can minimize that, that's one thing. Let's see here. What else did I do? I started stacking up the woodshed for next year. Normally, I don't get this done until like July or August, and it's usually a panic episode trying to get that done in time before the first rains. But started doing it already, thanks to the lack of work. So that's been fantastic. Burnt my last brush pile here because the burn ban comes into effect in 4 days here. So I was happy to get that done. And let's see here. I was thinking it was episode 2. We did a water episode, Eric and I think before you joined us, Alan. Do you remember that?
That was episode 7, and that was my first episode, was water.
Oh, well, there you go. So we talked about water gathering and everything else, and I had this little system set up for the chicken coop, and it was basically a rainwater catchment system. And I couldn't figure out why we had this torrential rainstorm the other day, and I got zero rain into the system at all, and I was like, okay, that's peculiar. So of course I looked up, and unbeknownst to me, just very slowly but surely, it plugged up with pine needles and a bunch of other stuff. At the point there was like 4 inches of stuff in the eaves troughs, and I was like, oh, never mind. So I spent half a day doing that, and then let's see here.
The no clean gutters are worth every penny.
Oh yeah, and then
every penny of them. Yep.
Oh yeah, it was definitely worth it, but it was actually a big job. By the time I swept off the roof and kind of get the moss off the roof and everything else, it was a big thing. Anyways, so since it's coming into dry season now, I wire wheeled all the hand tools that I had to de-rust after the winter. Started working on the solar system a little bit more, so I got power into the house and got a charge controller hooked up to the battery in the house, so I can charge cell phones and stuff off grid. And then let's see here, what else is going on? We actually picked up some solar panels today. That was kind of cool. So I got 10 solar panels for the house, but nothing else for it's just parts collection right now. Other than that, just continuing hardware collection, switched over to gas in the house, and that's pretty much it. Coffee?
Okay,
Got it?
sorry. I got my coffee.
All right.
Yeah, I don't remember what I did week before last. Honestly, it's been I think I mentioned in the group chat, it's been an absolutely crazy few days with the fire department. We've had like more calls in 5 days, in a 5-day stretch than we've ever had. But this week I spent most of yesterday splitting and stacking firewood. Managed to blow a line on a 22-ton log splitter, which is I'm going to be doing some landscaping next year, it seems.
So was that the return line, or is that just the high pressure line? Like, what do you mean?
No, it was the return line. It was, we broke it real good. Got a pressure washer. It was actually really entertaining to watch that be delivered because I ordered it from homedepot.ca. It shipped out of Wisconsin, went to Illinois, went to somewhere else, then drove right past my house. Went to 3 other cities in London, in Toronto. Like Toronto, Aurora, Stratford, and then a couple of other places before it was finally delivered to my house a week later. I couldn't possibly begin to understand the logic behind that, but hey, free delivery to the middle of nowhere, so I'm okay with that. So I did that. Got my new pressure washer set up, and that's a good time. Did some house maintenance. Got a new lawnmower today because my old one finally refused to start. And last time I had it serviced, they said, "Yeah, you can have this serviced again, but it's just not worth it." It's like, we paid $25 for it 10 years ago, and it lived a good life, and I hope somebody else can carry that on somewhere, but it's not living here anymore. So that happened today. So my youngest child has now become the lawnmower of the house, which is good. He's the guy that runs the machine. So got all my kindling stacked up and sorted out, and it's under the shed, or in the shed, so it'll be nice and dry. And that's it. I've been puttering around the house, and I've been working a lot.
Well, I'd say if you got it for $25, it doesn't know you anything at that point.
It doesn't know me a damn thing. Yeah.
The Bain mentions that don't look for logic and delivery systems in Canada.
It's shipped by UPS from, like I said, from Wisconsin, to Illinois, somewhere else, then to like 4 places in Ontario. And I was like, man, because UPS is famous, right? They show up with duty fees due at the door. They show up with brokerage charges. Like, if they show up with brokerage charges, I'm just sending it back because, like, I ordered it from a Canadian website, so that's, I'm expecting it to ship from Canada. I wish they had said it'll be like it's gonna ship. It's gonna take that long, because they said like 2 to 3 business days, and it was like 8 later, and I would have just gone and picked it up. But patience is a virtue or something.
Yeah, I hear you. I actually ended up, for the first time, I don't know how long Canada Post actually lost something. They're usually pretty good here, but I ended up having to get a resend from the original store because something got lost in the Richmond sorting center and never showed up. So, well,
they have had several COVID cases, and therefore things are bad.
Does that mean they took it home with them?
No, I couldn't tell you. I know there was. They were saying that one of the Toronto processing plant, I think, had a had an outbreak, and so they had to shut down a bunch of lines and shut down a bunch of stations and redirect for a bit because we've never been able to work with cold before.
Guess not. What was yourself, Terry?
Well, other than doing the nasty work thing, I signed up for a shortwave radio course, so I start that this week. And Alan reminded me of, I did do some spring maintenance around the house. I did get the lawnmower fired up and did some cleaning and that type of thing around here. So a little bit of brush falling down over the winter and so on. So that was my fun.
So something when you say short radio, you mean like the ham radio, right? Like the amateur radio? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, did I wait the wrong thing?
No. I just want to make sure it was like something else. I was like, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know.
No,
it was shortwave radio when I was a kid, and then at some point it became ham, and now it's amateur. And I imagine it has something to do with the terminology for legislation. But
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, goodness knows. No, I don't know.
No, it was always shortwave to me. Like my grandpa was a ham, and it was always shortwave to me until rather recently it became amateur.
Are you doing the online course, Terry, or you just do is it in person?
So it's the online course, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, that should be cool.
Some outfit out of Nova Scotia. I guess they got quite a few people that sign up for these things. I missed the last one. I was supposed to do that one, but I was a little tardy getting signed up, and they fill up pretty quick.
Well, I guess there's no real class limit sizes other than I guess the amount of questions would flow in, but
yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, all right. Well,
I guess it's great. It's great to hear. I'm really glad that it's busy enough that they're having to put caps on it and run more courses.
Yeah, they said they expect 200 students.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
They're at 160. Their last message I got from them. So yeah,
fantastic.
Pretty popular.
Yeah, it's kind of actually when I joined the local club here, the president phones me up and he's like, or I guess ex-president, sorry, and he phoned up because he's handling the emails and he's like, yeah, it's just been going gangbusters lately. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I know what's going on.
I know exactly what's going on. We've been talking about it.
People are kicking off the bucket list stuff they want to get done for a while, and why not? So
yeah, it's been on my list for a long time, and I just been putting it off.
Yeah,
now's the time.
What a rabbit hole they want. Oh, go ahead.
Before we skip into the main topic, I see Brad Taylor in the YouTube chat. I haven't forgotten about you, Brad. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting on a delivery of a couple of other things, and I'll be coming back to you with your email. I have not forgotten about you.
Cool. Caroline mentioned she's in the same course as well.
Yes. Caroline.
Yesterday there was 160, and now the class is capped at 250. So
that's
I said 250. Yes.
Yeah. What a rabbit hole though on the YouTube. Like, I mean, between Ham Radio Crash Course and the Smoking Ape and a couple other ones, I'm just like, there's just too many videos I want to watch now.
Yeah. Well, my goal for this week is to get all the last couple of pieces and connectors that I need, because of course Radio World never has all the exact right parts that I needed. So I had to kind of mishmash it together, and hopefully this time around they'll have the parts in stock so I can actually install the radios in my two vehicles and get some things programmed. So
yeah, actually, I did my first order from Radio World too, and again, the Radio World owner, she actually emailed me, is like, okay, sorry for the delay. It's like the next day, and she was like, sorry for the delay, but the antenna's on the way. Here's your tracking number. I'm like, wow, that's not a delay.
That's not a delay. Yeah,
that's pretty good, actually.
Phenomenal for service, and they're I'll shout them out. They're great. I've called them a couple of times to get information. They're knowledgeable. They don't pretend to know things, which is great. They'll say, "Oh, I'm not the guy for that," but come talk to this person, and then you get on the phone with that person, and they know exactly what to say. The inventory, and I'm sure it's not exclusively a Radio World problem. I'm sure that's a radio in general problem, a radio supply in general problem. But it's been the stock has been the only hang up. But no matter what I've ordered, I've gotten it quickly. So
yeah, they've been pretty good. Darius mentions he's got his coax manual in hand as well, and he's got it a few weeks ago, and he's the only place in the city that had one, and he's been studying ever since. So that's
great. Yeah,
Darius is going to join us too.
So much knowledge.
Oh, Bane mentioned he was getting all spooled up for the garden. Oh, no, we already talked about that one, didn't we? Oh, no, it's Bane. He said getting all spooled up for the garden and raised beds. He snowed 20 to 30 centimeters today. Oh,
wow.
Sorry, Bane. And he's still going. Might be a few days till he resumes. So
Well, we've got all of our plants inside. We've already got bean stalks that are 6 inches tall, and I don't know what we're going to do with them until we can plant them in the 1st of May. But we planted potatoes last weekend. That's another thing that we did. Planted seed potatoes, so hopefully we'll have enough to feed the growing boy monster until through the winter. We've expanded our garden significantly this year, which is going to be exciting.
Awesome. Well, time to move on.
Sure.
All right, main topic time. So, Book Club Volume 2. Here we are. This is a little different in the fact that we actually got Terry to come on the show, which we really appreciate. So, Terry, before we start talking about the actual book, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, boy. Well, I've been interested in prepping since I was a teenager. Growing up, you can tell by the white hair, I grew up in the Cold War era. So, I've been around back to the nuclear 50s and 60s. And I joined the Air Force when I was a young fellow, and I belonged to a tactical fighter squadron. And one of the things we were tasked to do was, in case the Russians attacked, we were supposed to go to northern Norway within 72 hours of being called up. And so the Cold War thing's always been in my blood. And this just seemed to be a natural, add-on to it. You always tucked a few things aside. Yeah, being out in the country, too, same thing. You always had power outages to deal with, and we'd get snowed in and so on. So just being prepared was a natural thing.
Nice.
It's almost as if it becomes a habit, then it's no longer a big deal. It's just a way of life.
Oh, yeah.
I love that concept. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, it's natural progression, too, when you're out in the country. When you have the power outages, it's just naturally going to lead to prepping. So, or what we'd call prepping today, life back then, right? So
life back then. And think of the money you save on groceries. You only have to buy stuff when it's on sale.
Yeah, that's kind of been the ongoing thing. Actually, have you guys heard of that? No, I guess it's a Costco West thing. Never mind Western Canada, but they actually have a listing of all the Costco specials on right now, and then you just kind of go in sniper shop. It's actually pretty good. So
we do that with the PC guys. We can build our entire grocery order and get it ready for pickup, and we can just pick the stuff that's on sale and the stuff that gives us the bonus points, and we're gonna have by Thanksgiving we'll have $800 or $1,000 worth of PC optimum points that gets us through the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. Bain points out that how far you are in the country is a good indication of how far into prepping you are.
Yes.
I live in an intersection with 70 houses, and I'm 7 minutes to the nearest gas station. That's how far I am.
I'd love to be further out, but unfortunately, job dictates I can't be that far out. So but I'm still unincorporated, so that counts.
Be nice to be a little farther out. But
Yep.
Anyway, so what inspired you to start writing books?
Well, working on the pipeline, I had a little bit of time on my hands quite often, so I used to read a lot. And I read a lot of books from new authors from the UK and US, and they're quite interesting. A lot of them are new authors. And I thought, if these guys could do it, why can't some dumb Canuck? So one day I just decided I was going to do it, and I sat down and I wrote the whole thing on an iPad, basically.
Really?
Just in my spare time.
Huh. Yeah, no, it's just funny because I've noticed that basically every time you read a book, it's always about an American situation, and very rarely I notice if it's a UK book, I'd be like, "Wow, a book from the UK! This is amazing."
Yes. Yeah,
and,
that was kind of.
Yeah, that's actually kind of funny because when I read yours, I was like, "Oh, finally, places I recognize."
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a few that I've learned since I started doing this, but not too many. Not too many.
Cool. And so
it certainly is a unique perspective and unique challenges too. I mean, it's not snow is not unique to Canada, but our climate is pretty hard to replicate anywhere else in the world.
That's right. That's right.
Unless you're writing in Cyrillic, I suppose. But yeah. Anyways, so what made you pick the particular scenario for antigenic shift?
Well, I just always thought that a disease pandemic was probably the most likely, event that would cause a crisis or an apocalyptic event. Say, there's just been so much out there, diseases over the years, and then add that in with the thawing Arctic, the global warming. If you believe in global warming, whatever, some do, some don't. But the Arctic is warming up, and buried in that permafrost, they found all kinds of old diseases, and they found anthrax up there. They found trying to think of a few things. There's a really interesting article in the BBC a few years ago about some of the stuff that was percolating up to the top. And I just figured, well, that's believable. And the migrating birds flying back and forth pick this disease up and bring it back down. So I thought that's quite a conceivable way to do it. And I thought that was the most conceivable thing of all the things. I don't believe in zombies.
Well,
Well, I don't really believe in birds either, so
I've seen a few zombies in the city, but they usually walk around like this all the time. It's
exactly.
like, both thumbs going crazy, and
Exactly.
yeah. So rather than me blabbering on about the book before we get into questions and stuff, can you give us a quick synopsis? Like, what's the book about?
Okay, let's see if I can get this here. So I wanted a subject that was believable, something that could happen very easily and catch humanity unprepared. And again, going into the Arctic warming up and the permafrost thawing and diseases that have been buried up in there. Again, wildlife mixes up with these, picks up these diseases. Birds fly down south, and they could take it all over the world very quickly. So that would help something spread quickly. And so the birds bring this back from their summer breeding grounds in the Arctic, mixes up with the current H5N1 strain that's floating around, and it mutates to the point that it's a completely new disease, which is what an antigenic shift is. It's a completely new disease that's formed from several different previous ones. So in my book, I got 50% of the population being wiped out, like within weeks, and everything getting overwhelmed and dead piling up in the streets and the rule of law falling apart. Food delivery slow down and electricity, because people aren't there anymore. So you have breakdowns in power and water and so on, how things start to fall apart. And then, the bad guys, they come out of the woodwork pretty quick. They'll take from those that are unprepared. We see it all the time, criminal gangs and so on. Now the rule of law is gone, so they start coming loose.
It's a free for all, right?
It's a free for all, and I think it'll come apart quick.
Rioting, they call it opportunity. It's how you look at it.
Yeah.
That's right. It's all perspective. Actually, I did appreciate the fact the book started off in a very Canadian activity, basically hunting up in Northern Ontario. It's just like,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like nothing tactical or anything else. It's actually a very normal start to a book that kind of build up was actually fast once it got going, but it was just very interesting the fact that it's not like they were I'm trying to think of like doing special ops in Afghanistan before they started their adventure or anything else. It was actually just a very normal beginning. So
yeah, that's the thing. And again, a lot of books you read are young macho guys with lots of muscle and tons of special forces background. And I wanted somebody that was old. Since I got the white hair too, I wanted an older guy, from an older perspective. Now, this guy that I wrote about does have a military background, but he's still an older guy. And again, I wanted it to happen in Canada, where we have snow and we have cold and we have different challenges to deal with, rather than someplace where it's warm and easier, I guess. Nothing's ever easy, but that was part of my thing in doing it.
Yeah, first it's funny. We were talking about this, I guess, a couple episodes before we had you on here. Is that when I was reading the book, I was like, oh, the guy's an ex-JTF2 guy. Like, how common could that possibly be? And then I was like, wait a minute, my dentist is ex-JTF2.
or so he claims.
Or so he claims on his website, anyway. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I suppose people got to do something when they retire. But yeah, no, it was pretty good. And I was kind of wondering at first, like, you had all those character introductions at the beginning, and there's everything from the German guy to the Asian martial arts expert guy and stuff. And I was like, why is he doing all this? And I was like, just seems overly tactical. And then I realized that you're using it as an allegory for, like, necessary skills to learn as part of preparedness, which I was like, that's pretty clever, actually. That was well done. So yeah, it was a very interesting way to introduce your characters, for sure.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to contrast the difference between people that have some kind of preparedness skills to those that don't. Just to do what you can do. There is a contrast there. There's a big difference in how things play out for you if you have a plan and if you're prepared.
And wait a minute, so, Brad Taylor says, "Thank God, no zombies."
No.
Not yet.
I've read a few zombie books. I must confess that I've read a few zombie books, but I don't really believe that's conceivable.
That's like romance novels for preppers. I mean, it's just if you need some mental bubble gum, you just throw that in for, just for some mindless entertainment and everything else. This is a lot more realistic. That's why I really like this book, actually, is because it had some realistic aspects to it. It wasn't just like easy peasy all the way through, and obviously complications ensue soon thereafter, right, with various aspects of the family. So
yeah.
So Terry, you mentioned that you were thinking about the mutation of the viruses and spread through the birds. What research did you do into that spread, like into virology, I guess, I'm not sure if that's the right term, but virology to guide you along your writing process?
God, that's a good question. I just looked online and I read a number of different articles from the CDC, and I have a little introduction of disease pandemics over the years. So I went back and I researched those and on how the pandemics come about and how they spread and how some of them mutated. And basically that's all I did. I just researched online. I have no background in it whatsoever.
So it was something that you thought was reasonable and kind of ran with it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, that's fair. Just like any other, habitat, if it gets overpopulated, sooner or later something comes along and takes care of business, right?
Well, that's it, right? And again, go back to the diseases. They've been talking there for years that, we've been overuse of antibiotics, and diseases are becoming more resistant to them, so they're becoming less effective. That's another problem we have too, because we got antibiotics and everything now, and it's not a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. And then we end up with MRSA strains of same things that we used to be immune to, and now we aren't, because we've forced them to change.
Yeah, they're constantly mutating.
Yeah, and now it gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now look what we got now. And it's been interesting watching this darn COVID thing unfold after writing this, because I wrote this in 2018 about a pandemic that strikes in 2020 of all years, and lo and behold, we get one. It's not quite the same, but we got one.
Yeah,
this is your fault.
That's right.
Yeah, really.
You telegraphed it, didn't you?
You did something about that. Yeah. I
so
got context.
Looking backwards now, you've seen all of 2020 so far, all of 2021. Looking backwards to 2018, how has this changed your views? How has this changed your opinions of people in general?
Interestingly enough,
seeing it come to life.
Yeah, I never predicted the toilet paper thing.
Okay.
Who could have prevented?
I don't think anybody predicted the toilet paper thing.
I did mention it in the book. When you're talking about stocking up, I did have toilet paper in there, but I never expected this. This was just something else.
Oh, I did giggle when I read that too. I was like, the one line about toilet paper was like, well, he nailed that one. But it wasn't a 50% die off here either. It was like literally, it was rumblings of it being in the country, and all of a sudden, boom, they had to limit toilet paper and everything else. Even though it's made here, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. China was involved somehow, probably,
yeah.
right?
And like we said, regardless of severity, it's not 50% of the people dying off, but it's just it's like 99.7% survival rate with certain age groups and stuff. So I mean, it still must have changed your views in some parts, and
it did. It was it did, and then the way that all unfolded, and then trying to think of what else I wanted to say about this one. Just the attitudes of people, though. They're similar, I find.
Well, I think the fear response is actually a fascinating thing to watch too.
Yeah,
because it doesn't have to be.
That's been interesting to unfold too.
Yeah, because I mean, even if it's the initial thing with COVID or the initial thing in the book, before something even affected people directly, whether it be in the book or real life, the fear reaction can vary greatly between people. Some people focus on a plan of getting home, say in the book, to start with the book, or some people focus on like stocking up on toilet paper or whatever. And it does bring to light the thin veil of society, under pressure, right? Yeah.
Which can disappear pretty quick, and we'll quickly fall into anarchy. But it's again, people's attitudes are different. They're a lot of people were in denial, and a lot of people weren't, and a lot of people were, I got my rights. You can't do this to me. You can't do that to me. I can do whatever I want. And again, it's funny how things fold out in real life, just watching it, and how one would react to these different things. Again, the book's a lot more serious a pandemic than what we got going on right now. It just kind of seems like a bad flu season sometimes, but it's interesting.
Well, and I feel kind of bad because like the first book review we did, I said that, well, thank goodness it's not one of those tactical books and everything else. And at first I thought your book was going to be like super duper tactical as well. And then I realized that, like as they're basically just trying to get home, and they kind of just do like a standoff, I guess, for lack of a better term, a couple times, where
they've had a few.
Yeah, they had a few, roadblock standoffs and, attempted robberies and stuff. But that's a lot more realistic than an actual, operator style gunfight and everything else. So I was really appreciative of the fact that it was actually something that could easily happen in Canada, especially when you're on the only highway home between, say Marathon, Ontario and or something. That's very believable, and, requires a minor bit of tactical aspect to it, but still very, very Canadian. Very Canadianish.
Oh yeah, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. So other than that, I was going to say, what makes your book different than the average prepper fiction?
Well, I guess just the fact that that was happened here in Canada, more than anything, is because you don't read too many like that. They say there's a few, but a lot of them don't have the winter. I wanted the winter in it because it's a big deal for us up here. Mm-hmm. And other than that, I don't suppose a lot of prepper books are kind of similar in a way. Some a little more tactical, some a little less, and some. Yeah, I tried to put a variety of people in there with different skills, so to kind of get that point across again about the difference in skill sets. But
yeah, I mean, so as far as some of your characters, like you have a main group of characters up in the Owen Sound area, but you also have some side notes out of Toronto as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I did appreciate too is the fact that, here we are at -20 and people are sitting in condos in Toronto and trying to make things work without power, without rule of law and everything else. And that's a very, not just Canadian problem, but just realistic problem with most people living in cities too, right?
Oh yeah, because so many people are urbanized nowadays that it would be a big issue. And, what are they going to do if all this, if you lost the grid and you didn't have power anymore, didn't have water anymore?
Well, I mean, I experienced that when in 2003 when I lived on the 25th floor of a building downtown, and I got home as the elevators were shutting down and looked up at the really, really dark stairwell and decided, I don't really care that much about my stuff. I'll come back another day.
Exactly.
But it does. It reflects on real life, and I think that's one of the things that's so easy to miss when you're writing fiction is it's hard to make it relatable. And it's even harder to make it relatable to Canadians when you're talking about the peach fields of Georgia instead of the subway system in Toronto. So
yeah.
Well, not to mention the people that are like trying to get home and they have their concealed carry handy with them and all this other stuff. It's like we don't have that here. Yeah, so that's just not going to happen. But
that's not going to happen. No.
And Bane did mention that, to be fair, a wintertime zombie book would be kind of boring. So I guess he picked right after all, because I guess they freeze in place as they're shuffling.
I wouldn't think they'd work very good in the cold, Well, I figure we're safe up here. We shouldn't have zombie problems in Canada.
We have we could have potentially zombie problems for about 6 months a year, and the rest of the time,
yeah, exactly.
We'd just be stepping over piles of snow, which we're used to anyways.
Yeah, so that's not such a big deal, that one. Zombies and mosquitoes.
Awesome. So, for those that haven't read it, relatively. Well, how many pages was it? Because I guess I had my Kindle, so it's a little different than. But how many?
295, I believe it is, in Antigenic shift. The second book I got out is considerably larger. It's twice the size.
Yeah, no, I've finished book 2 already. So.
Oh yeah, well, I couldn't believe how big that thing was when I got done. I thought, wow.
Well, there's a lot of stories to unpack there. But
I'm long-winded for sure.
Yeah, but that was good. So on that note, actually, plans for future books.
Well, there's that one, and I'm working on the third one. Although I've been neglecting to do as much writing as I should. I've been kind of distracted with all the goings on in the world these days, I guess, and I need to get myself motivated and get work because I'm about halfway through it, so I got a ways to go to finish that, because that's a 3-part series, and then that would be done. And God, I'll never write another 3-part series again without finishing all 3 of them first. I'm going to tell you that right now, because the pressure is terrible.
Very George R. Martin problem, right? They started it and then it didn't get finished in time, and then things just went awry.
Yeah. Oh God, because things happen, life happens, and work happens, and different things go on. Then we get these real pandemics, and it kind of throws you off a bit. But I'd like a few others. I have a few other ideas floating around in the old gray matter up there that I would like to write about too.
So the 3-book series, the first one was obviously Antigenic Shift, and it's the beginning of the collapse. Book 2 was
Descent into Chaos. So that's basically everything falling apart at this point. And then book 3 is Retribution, because then in Antigenic Shift, or not in Antigenic Shift, sorry, in Descent into Chaos, I leave you with about 5 cliffhangers where people get in trouble and you're wondering how they're going to get out of it. So in Retribution there at the end, well, we have a few wrongs to right, and we'll write them before we're done. And then a little cliffhanger of an ending, because I got the ending all figured out. I don't know how it's going to end, but just got to get there.
It's the meat and potatoes, yeah. No, and again, without any spoilers, because I won't spoil it for the people. But yeah, book 2. I mean, not only is it an expansion of the storyline and character, list, but no, it's a very, very accurate take on breakdown Law and Order, and the fact is, it's very Canadian problems. Everybody knows everybody. Drug trade is an issue in the city, and I just found it kind of neat, actually, just in the fact that you've really tied it well together. So,
oh, that's good. I got a lot of characters. I thought maybe I've gone a little overboard here, but I got a lot to keep track of.
So let's see here. Brad says, counting the days here for number 3. Really enjoying the series.
Oh, that's good. Thanks, Brad. I got to get it done. I got to get my duff in gear and get myself moving and get that finished.
Pressure's on now. So.
Oh, I know. I got some fellows at work that bug me continually. Said, "Where's book 3? Where's book 3?"
Well, again, if you get a quality product, people want more of it, right? Like, and rather just being a puppy mill for books, it's like you actually put some thought into it, which was good. So.
Oh, I try.
Anyway,
that's good.
So final thoughts. Anything final thoughts on all this?
Oh boy, final thoughts. I don't know, Ian. I don't know. Oh, I know what I was going to say. 2 weeks ago in your podcast, you had Chris from CTOMS on, and he was talking about first aid skills and how important first aid skills. Well, that's something I really wanted to emphasize in all my books as I write them is how important first aid is, which is and I bring it up quite often throughout the books on first aid training and how these people in the story spent a lot of time training and getting one another trained in first aid so that they could look after wrong. Turn off things important. And the other final thought, I guess, was not a lot of preparedness books, but there's an attitude out there of the lone wolf survivalist. I'm going to get my rifle and I'm going off in the woods and I'm going to hunt and I'm going to live. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. If you don't have a group of people.
Really.
Yeah. You really need a group of people. Right? Yeah. It's important to have that group of people because not everybody has different skills and everybody brings something different to the table. And it's community works better than a single guy on his own. Just thinking about just your security. How does one guy, maintain 24/7 surveillance without getting himself killed? You're going to burn out in a couple of days and you're going to be done. Right? So,
Well, there are 168 hours in a week and you can't be awake all of them.
No, you can't. You're going to nod off. And, if you want to be secure, you need a few extra people around to help spread that around.
Misery loves company.
Yeah, it does. So that's something else I put in there that's, it's important.
I mean, we can tie that back to another episode as well. I mean, just about a year and a bit ago, we had Dr. Joe Alton on from Doom and Bloom.
Oh, yes.
We were talking specifically about the pandemic and the planning and response for an illness. But Dr. Alton has produced a number of great works of general medical knowledge for when there is no doctor coming, right? Most first aid, when you take a standard first aid course, is we're the bridge from something bad has happened to somebody, and an ambulance, a fire truck, 3 police cars, and the Ministry of Labor is coming to visit. it does not. I mean, even a wilderness first aid course is getting somebody from a really, really bad position to a slightly less bad position where there's cell service. But it doesn't discuss what happens if you can't get to a hospital. And so the more knowledge you have, and that's one thing that is infinitely portable, is knowledge.
Yep.
It doesn't take up any weight, doesn't take up any space to pack. Knowledge is fantastic. So that's Dr. Alton would be a great resource for that, for practical application to the to Terry's books.
Yeah, it sure is. I got his in my little red bag back there on the shelf. I have his book in there, and I was lucky. They him and Amy had me on their podcast there once. I'll say about a year ago. So I talked to them a few times. They're good folks. They got lots of good info out there.
Super people for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so Brad mentions Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy. We're talking about the same people.
Yes,
they're the same. They're the same folks, and they're great. I think we had them on twice. Yep. And they were, just fantastic people both times, and they've got amazing resources and a great podcast of their own, and they're that survival medicine handbook is probably the one of the best out there.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah, the Survival Medicine podcast too. I mean, they do a great job every week. So, and you mentioned the mag. At first, when I was reading the book, there, I was like, man, this is just like way too convenient to have all these perfectly qualified people all show up at the same time in this group. But then I realized again, you're pointing out exactly what would make the ideal mag. In the fact that you need you need the medical people, you need the people that can actually teach self-defense, you need the people that can actually take care of last minute injuries or spur of the moment injuries anyways, and the importance of incorporating people in your community nearby to actually help make the system work, because if it doesn't, you still got that cranky neighbor next door, it's not going to help, right?
Oh yes, we always got those.
So no, it is very well done and very well put together as far as a how-to fiction manual almost.
Good. That's good. Glad you liked it.
The best reality, the best fiction is rooted in reality, and if you can make it relatable, then it's even better. And I'll be completely frank. I actually just ordered both the books. I like hardcover books or like paper books. I don't. I have a hard time reading on a screen. So
it's challenging, isn't it? In the same way.
I tried to read the first one. I tried to read Antigenic Shift, and I can't read it. I don't have a Kindle. I have it on my phone.
Yes.
And I just couldn't. But I've ordered the paper copies, so that'll be. I'm committed to that. And now you have to finish the third, because I can't have two of a trilogy. Yep. So
I'll get her done. I promise.
Awesome. So anyways, long story short, we kind of danced around the plot quite a bit, but yeah, obviously, guys, if you're going to read this book, it's definitely worth your while, and highly recommended it. As far as a book club goes, he was happy we came up with this idea. Actually, it was Carolyn, I think, one of the people, and Eric, I think, came up with the title to choose from, and I'm glad we did. So,
absolutely.
Good.
So, anything else, or should we just move on to the podcast challenge, Terry?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think there's anything else. I blabbed enough, I think.
Well, that was awesome. I guess podcast challenge time. Alan, you want to take it away?
The podcast challenge for this week: take some time off, enjoy some doom fiction.
There you go.
It can't all be work. It can't all be. Ants and grasshoppers, right? Take some time off. Find another book that you want to read. If you want to talk to us about it on the show, then let us know what you're reading. We'll read it too, maybe, and we'll have you on the show, and we can have a roundtable about it. So that's my thing. That's our thing for the week, is just take some downtime and do something that's not necessarily physically progressive, but will be good for your mental health.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I think a lot of people have been wound up pretty tight last year, so maybe it's just a good idea to put your nose in a book and just chill out for a few hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a challenging year for everyone.
It has.
Yeah. Actually, Scott, one of our listeners and part-time panelists there, did mention maybe 1 second after, so we'll talk about that later.
That's a good book.
Yeah.
Could I put a plug in for some poor fellow, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's another fellow, Chris McGarry. He's another Canadian from PEI, and he's got quite a few Canadian-based prepper-style books out there. Some of them go into America a bit too, as well. But he's I've been wanting to read some of his stuff myself, and I haven't got around to it. I've been too busy trying to get my own darn things done. But he's an interesting guy. He's on my list of books to read.
Is he on Amazon as well?
I believe he is.
Actually, before we get off the book idea, yeah. So actually, we'll talk about it later. That's good.
Sorry.
Anyways,
what was that name?
Christopher McGarry.
Here for myself.
McGarry.
Yeah, because I'm gonna look it up myself as well.
Yeah,
but,
fantastic.
Anyways, deal of the week time. I did find something. Actually, I had a SOG steel pop knife that was like 75% off at Cabela's last week, but the sale just ended today because we missed it because the last week being Easter and stuff. But I found a new one at Cabela's here, 30% off your solar powered hand crank radio, so AM, FM, and weather at Cabela's, and it's a decent price.
I was actually looking for a couple of those.
Yeah, I mean, they're not as cheap as they used to be because of obviously supply and demand right now, but I think this is on for $50 or something, which normally they were $30, I think, a couple of years ago, and well, everybody's getting into them now. So
now they're $80, so we'll drop them down to $50 and still make money.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I just threw the link in there for the show notes if people want to take a peek.
Good.
Other than that, shout outs, Alan.
Thanks to Cody for bringing his log splitter over. I'm sorry I broke it.
Oh, I heard hydraulic fluid is good for your lawn anyway.
Well, I mean, that one particular spot looks really, really green right now. We'll see what happens in the next couple of days, but it looks really, really green at this particular moment.
Oh, Bain points out if Cabela's will give you the sale price for a week after if you're far enough away.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, and Brad says, spell his name one last time. So.
Oh, okay. McGarry, I believe it's McGarry.
There you go.
I'll have to look it up myself, and I'll send you a text theory and put that on there.
Yeah, for sure. We'll worst case scenario, so we can play back the podcast. Let's do it again for the spelling. So
yeah, because I could be wrong.
Yeah. So I got.
It is in fact McGarry. I just did a little quick interning here.
Okay, good.
And it is Chris McGarry. He is Canadian, and he has a number of
He's got a number of books. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's got a number of good books.
Yeah. All right.
How about it? Yep.
There we go. As for myself, I've got a shout out for the listeners. Yeah, we want your feedback on Book Club. Not even so much as suggestions for titles, but yay or nay. Do you guys want us to keep talking about this? Talk about prepper fiction. Stick to the bare bones factual stuff, how tos, or is Book Club good, or just do you want us to stop? So just let us know either way. That's pretty much all I had.
If the answer is yes, then I think our next one has to be the SAS Survival Manual.
That's a good book.
Well, nonfiction, but yeah, that's. Can you cover that off in 45 minutes?
We could cover a chapter in 45 minutes for a year.
Maybe.
Yeah. Episode 45, Poisonous Plants. Yeah, subpart. Yeah, that'd be a long one. Email iTunes reviews.
We got a YouTube review from Todd, and he says, "You guys make me laugh. Thanks for keeping it light." If you take life too seriously, you're still never going to get out alive. You might as well have some fun while we're doing it.
That's right.
All right. Well, other than that, I guess I'm going to bring episode 112 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Please help us out and submit a review. It helps other people find us.
We do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want an early peek at the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast. Click the notifications tab. That gives you an alert when we're going live. If you want to find me directly, you can get me at Alan, that's with one L, at prepperpodcast.ca.
Terry?
And me, well, you can find any of my books on Amazon worldwide, whether you're in the UK or wherever you happen to be from. And just type in my name or the book title, and it should show up. And
it does, in fact. I proved that tonight.
Okay, that's good. And I do. The only other thing I've done is I don't have a web page, but I do have a Facebook page, and so I only do any marketing on Facebook. That's all I ever really do. So you can look me up on there, Terry L. Blackmore Author. That's my page on Facebook. And that's about it. Oh, God forbid, leave a review, And I got lots of books out there, but you don't get very many reviews. And the more reviews you get, the better it is for your ranking on Amazon. So the more you show up. So
You
that's
gotta play the
important.
algorithms.
Not just for me. I'm going to put that plug in for everybody. If you read somebody's book, put a review on Amazon for the poor bugger. It's tough to get them.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll have to throw something
Oh
on
boy,
there.
is it ever. I kid you not. It's tough, like pulling teeth.
Oh, Jeff just mentioned the fact that the show did not appear on Facebook tonight. I have to admit, I got kicked off Facebook, and then my Facebook access finally expired. I will never ever be able to put the show on Facebook if I host it again. So
You're in Facebook jail.
I am in Facebook purgatory.
Purgatory.
I was told never to come back. So
you descended into the third circle of hell.
yeah, so I was
boy.
is it really a loss? I don't know, but anyways,
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to transmit on podcast or on Facebook anymore. So if I'm hosting, it is offline. So
Okay, so let me rephrase that outro. We definitely broadcast this live on YouTube. Sometimes it's on Facebook.
that's right. Depending on who's in charge tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right.
No matter what, you will always be able to download it until iTunes decides that they don't like us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which could happen tomorrow. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can reach me directly by emailing Ian at theislandretreat@gmail.com. And you can also find me on Gab, which is no longer Facebook, as you know.
No longer Facebook.
Yeah, at The Island Retreat. And I also started a group. I think it's got 5 people in it right now. Self-Reliance and Homesteading Canada, because nobody cares about Canada. It's all American stuff. And you can also find my Canadian Patriot podcast on iTunes and YouTube Sunday evenings. There you can find us discussing why government waste and society makes me escape into a good book now and then. All right. Thanks for
That
joining
was
us.
a far better dad joke right there. That was
There
great.
you go.
You redeemed yourself there.
There you go. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe.
And keep learning.